Hello, in this video, I'm just going to go over some commonly missed questions from the Unit 10 progress check on the AP site. Um, First one that was the most commonly missed was this merge sort one, and not surprising we missed this. I didn't realize it was in there. This is actually our last chapters on sorting, so this will probably make more sense at a later date. So if you got the merge sort one wrong, no worries for now. Hopefully, maybe we'll come back to it later and kind of take a look, and then it'll make more sense later. The ones I do want to talk about are these binary search ones, because this is something we did cover, and it should hopefully be able to figure out. So how binary search works again is it guesses the middle. So it's kind of like if you're playing the guessing game. I've got a number 1 to 100. You'd guess 50, and then they'd say higher or lower, and you adjust your guess based on that. So it's the same type of video, except you've got an array. All right, so this first one talks about calling it with this array, um, and searching for the target of 5, which it's not going to find in this array. But just to walk you through what it'll look like is I have labeled the position 0 to 4. So it calls it, basically here's what it's going to call with this array part's always going to be the same. And this search thing is always going to be the same when you call it. What changes is the highest and lowest possible spots, which initially is the 0 spot and then 1 minus the length, which in this case is 4. All right, so it's going to say that's where we're searching, and so it's going to guess the middle. So what happens in the code is the mid is just 0 plus 4 divided by 2, which is just 2. And so what happens is it's going to take the middle, and it's going to guess the middle number 12, and it's basically saying, well, that is bigger than our target. So our target was 5. So basically all of these numbers up here can't work, right? So we're going to eliminate those by moving down our highest index all the way down to here, right? Because the 12 doesn't work either. The code actually checks if 12 is the target, but that didn't work, so it's too high. So we move this down. So what happens now is high is 1. So when it recalls, high is now 1, and then low is still the same as it was before, 0. So now our range is 0 to 1, right? And mid, hopefully you could figure out what would mid be now. Okay, and hopefully you figure out, hey, that's a 0, right? Because you do low plus high divided by 2. It gets truncated to 0. All right, and then we're going to guess what is ever at position mid, which is 2. And now we're going to say our target 5 is bigger than that. So what's going to happen now is low is going to go jump up 1 more than mid, because this can't be right. So it wipes this out down here and jumps up. So now low is now 1. So now when you call it, we call it with 1 and 1. All right. And I think that's what this question was. This question is asking what will be low and high called on the third time. So here's our first call, here's our second call, here's our third call. So the right answer to this, sorry, I'm having a hard time writing there. The right answer to this will be 1 and 1 will be low and high when we call it for the third time. All right, which is answer C. All right, then the final binary search one I want to do with you here. This one is with an array list, and it's going to populate it with starting by 10 and going up by 5s less than 65. So it's going to be 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. All right, so here's a visual of it, and then it's going to call binary search on that, starting with low being down here at 0, and then the highest being 1 less than the length, so it's going to be 10 up there. All right, and then it says, including the call above, how many times will it call before a value is returned? And we know it's going to return 7, because it's going to return the index of what it's looking for, the target, which is 45, which is how long is it going to take to get there, right? And so it always guesses the mid. So like the first time through, mid is going to be at 5. So it's going to guess 5 and obviously not get it right. So we're going to call, scroll this down a little bit, but we're going to call, this is the initial call of 0, 10, search of 45 for the list. And again, the list and 45 won't ever change. All right, and what will happen is mid will be 5, and then we'll say, okay, all of these are too low, right? Including mid is too low, so it's going to jump low up here visually. So low is going to become 6, right? And then high stays the same. High hasn't changed, it's still 10. Low is now here, right? So now it's going to call it a second time with 6 and 10. And so now mid should be halfway between 8. So we just do the average. It's going to guess 8, right? Which is wrong. 8 is too high. So it's going to move high down. It's going to wipe out and say, okay, this was too high. So it wipes out all of these guesses by moving high down here. So high is now at 6. And low is the same before. Sorry, high is now at 7. Low is the same before as it was 6. Right? So now it's going to call again with 6 and 7. And unfortunately, mid, when you do 6 plus 7 divided by 2, that's going to give us 6 when you truncate. So now we're going to guess mid is going to be 6 here. And it's going to guess the 6th position, which is 40. All right. And so in that case, 40 is too low. So it's going to move low up to be one more than mid. So now it's converging. So now low and high are kind of the same thing. They're both 7. Right? And now will be okay because now when we do mid will now be the average of 7 and 7, which is just 7. And we'll finally find what we're looking for. And that'll be our last call to binary search. Return 7. So it looks like it gets called 1, 2, 3, 4 times before it finds it. It gives us the answer to that one of 4. Okay, hopefully that's a good review of binary search for you. Again, reach out with any questions. I hope all of you are doing well.